Are we being? Good afternoon and welcome to today's Cabinet meeting. It is 4 p.m. by the iPhone. Members are reminded that we will be using the audio-visual system this afternoon, and the meeting will also be streamed live on YouTube. There is a quick reference card placed on the desk in front of you all, which provides instruction on how to use the basic speaking function of the microphone. Members are asked to physically raise their hands in the usual way to indicate they wish to speak and to use their microphones when speaking for the benefit of all present. The microphone is live when the red light displays. Please switch mobile phones to silent. I will now provide a reminder of the evacuation procedure. In the event of having to evacuate the council chamber, please leave by one of the 6 emergency exits around the side of the chamber. Please assemble at the far side of the front car park nearest to the park entrance. Officers will be on hand to assist persons who require any assistance. Members, there is legislation that allows the public to film, record, or use social media at a council meeting. This must not be disruptive to the good order of the meeting, nor included any filming or recording of the public seating area. Before we move on to agenda item 7, I do have one announcement to make, and that is to welcome Councillor Malise Graham as the formal deputy leader of Melton Borough Council. Malise has a long history. I don't even look round behind on the boards. He's been a mayor for 3 years, I believe, and first mayor to do 3 years, leader for a large number of years anyway, and a lot of history, and his experience to be most welcome to myself as leader and also the rest of the cabinet, and as always the whole council. So thank you very much, Malise, for accepting the offer. I don't believe I have any apologies for absence. Agenda item 2, minutes. To confirm the minutes of the cabinet meeting held on the 8th to the 21st. I'm happy to move these. Councillor Graham, will you second? I will second that. Thank you very much. Declaration of interest. I just look, Alison.
Thank you. I've got a disclosable pecuniary interest in item 5, and I'll have to leave the meeting at that point.
Thank you very much. And I declare a personal interest as a member of Leicestershire County Council. The number 4, item 4, matters referred from Scrutiny Committee in accordance with the Scrutiny Procedure Rules. At this very early stage, obviously we've got a very detailed report, but I'm going to hand over to Councillor Pat Cumbers, Chairman of Scrutiny, to present the report. Thank you very much, Pat. Over to you.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, the report itself, the small document that explains why the task and finish groups were formed to look into place and people issues caused by COVID, and how we responded and how we might want to respond in the future. Our report, the bigger report, includes our recommendations and the reasons for the recommendations. It includes some of our evidence, and the vast majority of our evidence is not in the report, but is available on the website. So you have no idea of the stuff that we actually accumulated. 2 of our recommendations have already been queried by members of the Cabinet, so I shall say a bit more about those. One was the attention we paid to young people aged 16 to 24. We did so because what very soon became clear was that they were the worst affected, and you might not think that. You know, you'd think, well, that they would be okay, but they were badly affected, and for a number of reasons. Sometimes, of course, their education was completely interrupted, and sometimes completely missing, and but then when they were, if they got a job, then they're more likely to be on 0 hours contracts, and they're less likely to have savings, and they're less likely to have their own property, and all the indications were that they were the worst affected. And I was quite surprised, but that wasn't just in Melton, that was right across the country. You know, it was accepted that they were worst affected of all groups. And the other thing which has been raised by a member of the Cabinet is the amount of information that we provided about members of the BAME communities. And I had to remind the Cabinet members, of course, this came from a proposal. It was proposed by the leader and seconded by Councillor Browne. And it followed the awful happening with George Floyd in America. I think that really shook us all, you know, to see it televised, someone dying basically because he was black. You know, and I think it made us all think harder about what was going on in this country and within our own communities. Now, and of course, part of our survey, of course, the survey, we did have difficulties in the fact that we weren't able to get as many responses as we'd hoped. And so we had, with surveys and statistics generally, you know, you can sort of almost interpret them any way you want. But what did come out of the survey, that only 7 of the residents described themselves as of a BAME community, but quite a few preferred not to answer the question, which indicates to me that they too were members of the BAME. But the awful statistic which came out of that was when they were asked if they'd been discriminated against by this council or any of our partners. Of that 7, 5 said they had been, you know, and that's 74%. Now, of course, you can't, because the survey numbers were so low, you can't really depend on them, but it must give you an indication, you know, that there's something not quite right. And maybe they're too sensitive, you know, but we thought that that's something that really should be, we need to make sure, you know, look again at our policies, look again and maybe get officers to really be aware and to be asking people, you know, if they, you know, if they feel discriminated against, if they feel that they've been treated fairly. So those were the 2 things which members of the Cabinet had brought to my attention. And if there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Pat. I suppose I should call you Councillor Cumbers, but when we know each other so well, it's difficult for me, at least anyway. As you were aware, I really value Scrutiny and the work Scrutiny does. I've said at times that Cabinet's only as good as Scrutiny, and Scrutiny is only as good as Cabinet in many ways. But you picked up a difficult piece of work here, and what I do like, I mean, obviously you've had the impact of COVID and changes within Melton Borough Council, as this panel has sat, even with Andrew leaving, for instance, and along the line. But it really is a very, very positive piece of work. There's no doubt about that. And the recommendations will help, and our approach to supporting and empowering people as we emerge from the pandemic. I suspect that the impact of the pandemic is going to be here in Melton and the rest of the UK, well, the rest of the world, for I can't imagine how many years, and possibly how we'll never quite get over it. Most people say it's here for a long, long time, but obviously we will learn to live with it. So I'm very happy to move the recommendations. There's lots of recommendations at 2122, 221. There are A, B, C, D, E in that one, 222, 223, 224, 225, 226, 227, A, B, and C. I'm going to hand over to Malise, who's going to second this. He's going to give you a bit more detail in response to the scrutiny report. So over to you, Malise.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for your kind words. It's real reversal. You were my deputy for a very long time, so I hope we don't spend the next time trying to score the points which I tried to score over you all those years ago. We'll see. But we work together as a team, Ben, and hopefully we will work together as a team for the next. long time. Thank you. Pat, it's a really good report. Thank you very much. As I said at the time, I read it and I have now, I did say I was going to reread it and I hadn't when we met, and it's absolutely brilliant. And I know the problems that you had with the change of the personnel, helping you from the officer side and everything else. So it's good and it's constructive. It's just one or two things I wanted to clear up. Recommendation 1, absolutely agree with that, and that can be implemented. I just wondered if there's a chance of tying up recommendation 2 and recommendation 4 and doing one really big, putting all our resources into one fair for all ages and the voluntary sector and everything else, rather than doing 2 smaller ones.
It's not what I would recommend, you know, because in the end, it's not my choice. I think they're 2 different things. I was out and about today and I mentioned to I beg your pardon.
That's right.
Yeah, I spoke to a couple. I was in the BHF today, the charity shop, and I mentioned we were going to have a voluntary, or thinking about a voluntary fair, and they were really, the woman was really, interested in it. It's something we've done before, but I don't think mixing all these things together, you know, personally, I just don't think it would work. I'd rather sort of not have some of the things. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I'd rather sort of miss out on things rather than to try and do them all together. It could be that you some of that you won't want to do, but I know it was mentioned before. I think Malise had a very good idea when he suggested about having a fair for businesses who, you know, people who are looking for employees, which I think is a very good thing. But mixing the different ages, I think. As I say, the 16 to 24, so they have been worse hit than any others, but not. I would, if people are looking for employees, they might be going for they might naturally go for older people, you know, with their experience and I don't know. Certainly, we have done a voluntary fair in the past, and it worked very, very well. I'm such an enthusiast for volunteering because the world wouldn't tick without volunteers. It really wouldn't. But volunteering as well is so good for those who volunteer, and especially coming out of the pandemic, all the loneliness has been, you know, and coming out and sort of, and the idea of a voluntary fair, of course, people can see all the stuff that's possible to volunteer for. I mean, some of you will remember once upon a time we had a volunteer bureau, and I can remember Pam Dixon, and my goodness me, she was so good at slotting people into the right sort of voluntary position. So I think a voluntary fair, and hopefully it wouldn't cost too much. So probably out, I don't know. In the end, it's your choice, Cabinet's choice, and what's picked up, if anything. But I certainly wouldn't want to see them joined together. I'd rather some were just missed out altogether and left for a future time.
Thank you very much. I hear what you say, and I think that really we would want to go ahead with you and your suggestions on board, because I haven't been on the website. I haven't seen the amazing amount of information you've got as well. And I take on board what you said, and we can discuss that at a later date. I also, as you know, I find consultation terribly difficult and surveys. And I know you've had the problem with this and how much one should read into it. And one of the sort of things that struck me was, if there's no more than 2 questions we actually want an answer to, and we do send out a tax bill to every single house in March. And I just wondered if there isn't a way, but if there was something we really wanted to know, where we couldn't include something in that letter, and then at least everybody is. But how one makes a decision on a 4% reply, or 400 people, or whatever it is, I do find it very difficult, because as I say, the things that I've introduced when I was leader from introduction of wheelie bins to this office. If one had listened to too much consultation, neither would have gone ahead. There, that was my side view on that. Yeah, yes.
I know you're old, Malise.
Sorry, Mike.
I know you're of old, and knowing that you're not too enthusiastic about surveys, and often I agree with you, but this was really, we wanted to find out with our survey, we wanted to find out just how people had, how the council had reacted to this awful thing that was happening, this pandemic. And the only way we could do that was by a survey, you know, and that was the idea. We wanted to, two things, we wanted to know what was going on nationally, but then in particular, you know, did we respond correctly? Could we have done better? Could we have, and of course, we're also thinking about the future, and should anything like this happen again, hopefully the task and finish, the place and people will help guide the council in the future, be more prepared. What I will say is that the officers were very often, they were fully prepared. And I think Aisha especially, and Laura and their work, my goodness me, that they were so quick, they responded so quickly. And I think we were one of the right up front, sort of trying to do the right thing. And as well, what we found is surprising really, that most people were okay. Most people just adapted and they got on with life, you know, and they just got used to a different way of living, providing they didn't hit these real bad problems. Obviously, if someone loses, you know, a job, if they're worried about their finance, then they will be badly affected. But I should think most people here, for example, just adapted and got on with life. But some people, and especially those right down the bottom, they were hit sort of doubly bad, you know, and what we did identify, of course, and this goes right across the country, that if you were already poor, you were going to get poorer. If you had no savings, you know, you were really hit badly. If you rented, you were more likely to get into debt. You know, all these things that were happening. So apart from anything else, the more people who buy their own houses, the better equipped they are to sort of fight back. But certainly the response from this council, I think, was superb. You know, picking up those, where could they turn? Where could a lot of those people turn? They didn't know where. They couldn't go out. Everywhere was shut down, you know, but I think our response with that stuff, I thought, was superb.
Brilliant, Pat. Thank you very much. And it is, and gosh, it's what this council is about, really, which is so wonderful. Recommendation 6, was it 5? Well, my glasses, 5. I couldn't get a conclusion out of it. I see the problem, but I can't see the conclusion.
Can I answer that? Yeah. Apart from anything else, every time I picked up anything about digital exclusion, the statistics were different. You know, so I suppose things are defined differently, you know, by different organizations. But what we do know is that people who are digitally excluded, they suffered. If you couldn't get information from the internet, you didn't really know quite what was going on. We know that the phone calls to the council increased, you know, and a lot of those phone calls were digitally connected. But these people, they're ratepayers. Very often they're older and they'll have paid a lot of tax, you know, and they weren't being pushed towards the services the same as others. And it must have been hard. And though in the past, there's some sort of, I don't know, it goes back a few years, a commitment, to try and get everybody, every resident, sort of digitally sort of competent. A lot won't want to be, but apart from anything else, if they're not sort of digitally connected, then they're an expense to the council. If there's something on the website, they don't know how to get into it. They've got to phone and maybe pass around the, several officers, or maybe someone's got to go and see them, so them not being on the internet does cause problems and does cause an expense. And of course, look at what all they're missing out generally. They're missing out on so much information. So I do feel that if we can do anything, especially if we can do stuff with Age UK, and as well, make use of our own facilities at Phoenix House, then I think we should do. And something else I think it would be nice if we have a volunteers fair, if we can start looking for people who would take some of that work on, because not everything, the council can't do everything. It can't supply everybody, but there are lots of people out there who might have a few hours to spend that can help people become digitally competent. And that's to the advantages of all of us, to those people, but certainly to this council as well.
Thank you, Pat. I do totally agree, and it's something we should be looking at, because actually, not only is that's something which actually affects our rural areas in a way, maybe even more than the residents of the town. So it is something we need to look at, and we'll see if we can find a conclusion for it. Recommendation 7, I totally agree. I've been to one meeting of the Helping People Partnership Board. It's incredibly useful. It's, again, what we're about. I think probably we need to think, it wasn't all that well represented by a lot of people who could and maybe should have been there. And I think that might be something to do with the time that we held the meeting. One of the people I've talked to about it have said, I just can't get there at 1 or 2 o'clock, whatever it was. So that is something we can look at, and absolutely no reason at all why the minutes of that meeting cannot be sent to everyone at Scrutiny, or whatever way Scrutiny wants to know what we're doing. So with that, and we would like to, one wants to be able to work with you because you've got the information. Let's take this forward. And I hear everything you said about it. So with that, I'd like to second the recommendation that we accept these recommendations. Thank you. Thank you.
Could I just have another word about recommendation 7? The one you've just mentioned. Could I just say something? Yes, so I know some members weren't happy in the past, about the what was called the People Board. We didn't know what was going on, and we didn't actually know what was going on with the Place Board. And there's no doubt that they should be, and I don't doubt that they could be so valuable. But this, the newly formed Helping People Partnership, this was something Michelle brought to our attention, and she is determined to do, that members will know about it, because it's not right. It was almost like a parallel council, that they were doing stuff, and sometimes they were doing the same stuff as us. In the end, the council, and the members, we've been elected, and of course, sometimes with the partnerships, they are self-elected, aren't they? They come forward and put themselves forward. So no, I think that that's going to be a worthwhile thing as well. And thank you very much for both of you supporting this. Alison had a question.
Yeah, Alison. I'll see if you can remember your question.
Thank you. I was just going to add a different point of view to the idea about having a different volunteering fair to a jobs fair. One of the things that's very valuable, especially in the younger age groups, is getting into work. Volunteering could be the first step into that. So if you were to isolate the 2 events, the younger people who might go looking for a job might miss out on other opportunities. But equally, if you were having a jobs fair and there was the volunteer sector there at the same time, it might encourage some of the employers to do things like work experience. It might encourage them to take on a placement from a young person if they get to speak to them. So I don't know whether there is room for volunteering and work in the same arena to try and capture both of those things, because one of the things that we struggle with, especially in my environment that I work in with SEN or behavioural students, is the lack of opportunities for the young people to do volunteering or get work experience. So in a way, if you think about it like that, it might actually create opportunities, and rather than separating the two aspects. What do you think?
I think yeah, that absolutely makes sense. I think perhaps if we had a jobs thing, but to include perhaps a stand about volunteering, I think you've made a really good point there. Mostly I wouldn't want them combined, but you're right. I mean, well, we all know, those of us who do work in the voluntary sector, we know that very often that is a way into work, and of course volunteers can also get training, and yeah, it's been such a miserable time for so many young people, the education, everything upset, and something else about, because the furniture project is especially good at bringing in volunteers, and of course they do get trained, and not only do they get trained, they get used to getting up in the morning and having some sort of construction to their lives, and no, it is really, I think, yeah, and they do get skills, and not only that, the fact that they volunteered looks good on the CV, and so that it is a good, yeah. And no, I do absolutely take Alison's point.
Because yeah, not all the young people are job ready. So they might be in the 16 to 20 age group and most affected, but they might not have had any opportunity to work before. So what you've described about getting up in the morning, setting the alarms, making sure that they're dressed in appropriate wear, and getting access to that is really important, and that's what the volunteer sector can help, but they won't always know that themselves, so they probably are more likely to go to a jobs fair and miss out completely on that sort of work experience and volunteering opportunities. So yeah, there probably is a place for both.
I absolutely agree. I think, but that, to try and concentrate on those young people, because a lot goes on for older people. And we know at the moment, apparently, that there are more jobs than people looking for jobs, so it's a funny old world, isn't it? But no, they do, yeah, and volunteering is such a good way to get experience, to learn about life, all sorts, learn about getting on with people. And I know that at the times I've seen a volunteer turn their lives around, especially if they have mental health issues, that's another problem. It gets them meeting people and in a safe environment, without pressure. No, that I absolutely take that they could be part of those things, could be joined. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I don't believe there are any more questions at all to you, Pat. So it just remains for me to say thank you to you, and also to your Vice Chair at the back, Rob, who's obviously put a huge amount of work in, the whole of the Scrutiny members. And also, if you could pass on our thanks to the officers who support you. It really is a comprehensive piece of work. You've done really well, actually. The depth of it is quite amazing to me. Members, obviously the recommendation has been moved. It has been seconded. I'll go to the old-fashioned way of voting. Those in favour, please raise the hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe that's unanimous, if that could be noted by democracy. Pat.
You're right. A big omission there, where I didn't thank the officers. We couldn't have done this without them. Of course, we were missing Andrew for a long time, because to begin with, he was so good. But no, right through, of course, we've had Natasha and the help, and now, of course, that we've got Adam, he's picked up stuff absolutely magnificently, and yeah, so the officers and we all, I think, get on very well together, and without them we couldn't have done this. But no, so thanks very much to them. And there are quite a few acknowledgements in the document.
Thank you, Pat. Now we move on to Item 5, the Melton Mowbray Business Improvement District bid renewal ballot. I invite Pranali, wherever Pranali is, to step forward, or are you going to handle it from there, Pranali, whichever's the easiest for you.
Leader, I'll just leave the
Could I
room.
ask Pranali, by the way, if you could speak up as much as you can, because as some of you know, my dog has managed to eat 2/3 of my hearing aids, and I'm struggling without any hearing aids. So over to you, Pranali. Thank you very much, Alison.
Thank you, Leader. This report is an extension of the report that was approved by the Cabinet at the last meeting on the 8th of September about the bid Business Improvement District renewal ballot. There was one recommendation that was deferred about the voting for the bid, and that was because Cabinet asked, provided some comments which were passed on to the bid, and it was following receipt of the final business plan that we are presenting this report today. As you notice in section 5.2, we have got about 17 properties within the bid proposed area, and that's why the council will have 17 votes to cast in the ballot. The ballot is arranged for the 28th of October, and all the ballot papers as well as the final business plan have been sent to all 487 participating businesses by the bid. The comments received by the Cabinet at the last meeting, including the comments from the ward councillors and the comments received or representations received from some of the businesses, all this have been fed back to the bid and the bid board, and the bid have confirmed that the final business plan includes all the projects and activities that are available for all businesses within the bid area, regardless of the geographic location. So the businesses to the north and south of Norman Way receive the same benefits as for the rest of the bid area. There was also, I wanted to point out that the list of projects and allocations of budgets that are identified within the business plan, again, all businesses can access and receive those benefits regardless of their geographic location. And the last point about the bid ballot rules and the bid company structure and the composure of the bid board that's included in the bid business plan already. So on receiving the final business plan, I can confirm that the priorities and actions identified in the business plan do comply to the council's priorities, corporate priorities, particularly priority 3 for delivering growth and sustainable growth within Melton and regenerating the town centre. BID has been a really good partner for us, and if the ballot is successful, they will be collecting about 170,000 per year in levy collection, which will be spent for the support of the town centre and businesses within the bid area. And that's why the recommendation to vote in favour of the bid ballot for all 17 votes that we have available. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pranali. I'll move the recommendations at 2122. No, hang on, got the wrong one, sorry. 2-1, just 2-1. Yes, that's right. My fault. Apologies for that. I think this is going to be my only cabinet report as the acting member for Growth and Prosperity, because we move on after this meeting's over. Number one, it's hard to believe the bid has been there for 10 years, to be honest. I find that quite amazing. I remember it being set up and a lot of excitement, quite rightly too, as well. And 10 years have gone by. Somehow I managed to even get involved a little bit in the setting up of the bid in Loughborough. I don't know how I managed to do that, but I did. And when you look at the work that the bid actually do, and if they weren't there, this council will have to pick up. It's a little bit scary, to be honest. So they do a good job, and it's an exciting time for Melton Mowbray. As the businesses in the town centre have the opportunity to vote for renewal of the Business Improvement District at the end of October. as I said, it's done amazingly well, and I genuinely mean that. They have a relatively new chairman in Lee Freer, and his enthusiasm is bubbling over at this moment in time, and I know that enthusiasm is going through his whole team as well. That's great. The business waste collection scheme is popular, and so are the events and markets that the bid organises. There's no doubt about that. They've been a good partner to the council in ensuring the well-being of the business in the town centre through the COVID period, which obviously we've just been talking about. Sometimes I think it's very fair to say the relationship has been challenging, but that's life, isn't it, at the end of the day? But at the end of the day, we all have the same aims, but we've always joined hands together in working towards the benefit of the wider community. This is a great opportunity for our businesses to get together, collect the levy and take the reins in their hands for how the town centre functions and thrives for the next 5 years. The council supports the bid and wishes them well in the ballot process. So as I've said, I've moved the recommendation. I look for a seconder.
Much pleasure in seconding. Thank you very much, Leader.
Thank you very much. Ronan?
Yeah, very happy to support the recommendation, and just really to say that going forward, that over the next 4 to 5 years, look forward to hopefully this council working with all the businesses within the town and with the bid to try and really bring that vibrancy back to the town. I think now more than ever, we should hopefully get a bit of a kickstart using coronavirus as maybe a little bit of a positive. I know it's been a negative, make it a positive, work all together, try and stick together as you just alluded to, and move things forward. And when things do crop up that we need to deal with, we do them professionally and quickly. Yeah.
Any other comments? If not, we move straight to, I think it is a vote. It's not just a no. No, it's just noted. If Democracy could just record that we've noted the report. Thank you very much. Alison back, yes, please. Thank you very much. Are you going as well, Pat?
Leader, yeah. Can I just point out the first half of the recommendation is to note, but the second half of the recommendation provides an authority. So if you could vote on that, that would be helpful.
Okay, whilst Alison is still out of the room, I've been informed I've made a mistake, an error. I'm afraid that's the way it goes. You obviously ask you now to raise your hands in the old-fashioned way. For those in favour of the recommendations, please raise their hands. That's unanimous, I believe. Democracy, if you could record that, please. Thank you very much. Now, if Alison could come in. Yep. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alison. We move on to item 6, designer development supplementary planning document, the SPD. I invite Mr. Worley, and here he is, to summarise the report, please. Thank you very much. Jim, and if I could ask you to speak off as well, please, because thank you very much.
Right, so I'll try and keep it brief. You're aware of this because it's been long in the making, it's fair to say. And very pleased to see it's come to fruition as a finished document for which we seek your endorsement and then onwards to full council for their adoption, because this would be formal SPD. Design of development, the context for this is worth just dwelling on the context of design and planning, because the NPPF and the local plan upon which this builds is not just about design full stop. Those documents talked about improving design from what we've seen in the past. Stepping away from some of the mundane and more criticised design we've seen in previous decades and going to a whole new plane of something better. But there's one thing saying it, than there is doing something about it. And that's really what the key motivation behind this document is. It's meant to be helpful and constructive. It sets out what we think good design should be regarded as, and probably more importantly, it almost acts like a toolkit to encourage people how they can get there. So it's a long way away from sort of traditional form of policy, which could sometimes feel a bit like a stick to beat people with, into something much more helpful and constructive to help them get there. The other comment I make is that the document very much addresses design in the round. Design isn't just about the beauty or otherwise of the four walls and the roof of the building that you're looking at. It's all about its setting, its context, even into the sort of technological use of materials and sustainability techniques and things like that. And this document, having been through consultation, which gave emphasis to some of those concepts, tries to capture all of that to provide a comprehensive package of guidance to prospective developers that we hope will then be better placed to meet our aspirations.
Thank you very much, Jim. The SPD, there isn't a lot to say actually today, but having said that, it's a massively important piece of work. And again, I'm well aware of the amount of work that the officers have put into it, and I'm well aware of the comments that's come forward as well too, to support primarily this, the design of the SPD. It is a guidance to complement the local plan. Yeah, that's all you can say really, but that guidance is massively important. It's part of the quest to improve the design quality of development, which is a major key aspiration of the local plan, a step change improvement from previous decades. It's intended and is to be a positive and constructive document, which will help developers understand expectations and what good looks like. And its very extensive internal and external consultation has resulted in a comprehensive document assisting with all aspects of design, including the climate change agenda. I do recommend strongly 2.1 and 2.2, and I think I'm going to read out both recommendations in this because it's such an important document. That we note the comments received during the consultation period, and they have been quite a lot, and the amendments made to the design of the development supplementary planning document. And it's important that we recommend to the council that the final version of the design of development SPD included as Appendix A is adopted as a formal supplementary planning document. Will that be the December meeting now? Do we have a meeting before? It will be December. Seems a long way off, but having said that, November, I suppose it's about 2 months off, isn't it? So that will move forward to full council in December. I look for a seconder.
See her pleasure in seconding that.
Yeah, so we have a seconder for those two recommendations. Anyone got a comment? No. We move to the vote. Those in favour, please raise their hands. Unanimous. If democracy could note that vote, please. Thank you very much, Jim, and thanks to your team, and thank you to everyone who's taken part in the consultation as well. That's vitally important to do. We stop with planning. We move on to item 7, the Melton North Sustainable Neighbourhood Plan. I hand over to Jim to introduce and summarise the report. Thank you very much.
Thanks again. This one's also been long in the making, but not as long as the previous one. I calculate it's nearly a year ago that this was presented for Cabinet in its original form. And you'll remember back then we paused and we reflected on some comments we received that it would be better if it was all-encompassing in a geographical sense around the whole of the North Sustainable Neighbourhood. You may remember it was covering only about 2/3 at the time because planning applications, we thought, had completed the job for the other third, but we thought again. It really does 2 important functions. One, a bit like the design SPD we've just been speaking about, is that it fulfills a pledge we made to ourselves through the local plan to have a master plan for this area. And it now does that, as I say, from east to west and north to south, fully setting out the scope of the development, its content, schools, the road, the housing and open spaces, and in the form of a general layout, and importantly, narratives and expectations about phasing and delivery. But the other thing that it does is it adds to our commitment to the County Council about one of the things that they need to have in place in their quest to have assurance about their infrastructure investment, and indeed the HIF award, which is still a live topic over at County Hall. There's a direct linkage between that award and the securing of this document to give the assurance that the approach to HIF, the conditions of HIF, could be fulfilled. I'll not go into the detail of the master plan. There's many pages of it and many diagrams. Hopefully it speaks for itself and it's coherent anyway. This isn't SPD. There's technical reasons that are explained in the document why that is the case. It's not been intended to be from the start, because it's fulfilling that role of the obligation we set ourselves in the local plan. It doesn't need to go anywhere else. So your endorsement tonight will be its seal of approval, if we get it.
Thank you again, Jim. The Melton North Sustain the report, just for people on YouTube, you can see what a comprehensive document is by the thickness of it. I have scanned it. I can't say I've read every single word, but I have scanned it. And yeah, it is comprehensive, there's no doubt about that. And so again, congratulations to you and your team for putting it together in a pretty quick time, to be honest. And it does represent a really important step to securing the housing growth and the infrastructure that Melton needs. It provides a really positive vision for what the new sustainable neighbourhood of Melton would look like, with nearly 2,000 homes, schools, green spaces, community facilities, playing fields. It underpins the significant investment in the north and east of the MMDR, which again takes another step closer. Welcoming the collaborative work taking place between ourselves, the County Council, and all the developers too. And I note that the master plan is being approved, but is still subject to viability testing, which is important, as we must ensure any plan we have is deliverable. And you look forward to being updated on the outcome on that work shortly. So this will go, if approved today, will go to full council, I presume. Am I right or wrong? I'm wrong on that. Yeah, that's right. So, so I'm happy to move the recommendations at 2122 and 33. I look for a seconder.
I have pleasure in seconding all that. Thank you, Mr. Leader.
Thank you very much. Anyone got anything to say? Okay, I look for those two in support of the recommendations to raise their hands, please. I think that's unanimous. Again, if democracy could please note that. Thank you very much. Now, it doesn't quite bring us to the end of the meeting, because I've just got one thing to say, which is because of changes that are being made, obviously we welcome Malise as Deputy Leader today. I'm also going to welcome, at this moment in time, Councillor Rob Binlos to the Cabinet. I look forward to working with Rob. He's done great work as Councillor Cumbers Vice Chair at Scrutiny, and I look forward to having that sort of experience coming to the Cabinet. So welcome, Rob, and obviously, as of now, you're a Cabinet member. So well done and congratulations. Otherwise, thank you very much for all those people who have tuned in and listened, and bye-bye. Cheers, Em.